we do have traditionally these long to-do lists. I do challenge people to have a do not do list, because what are you doing that you should not be doing? And I think we really need to value our time. I place a lot of value in my time, and in doing so, other people do. My coworkers, my children, everybody. If you're working so hard in the business, you're not working on the business. You know who made it.
Welcome back to the Wealth Eazy Show, where we talk all things wealth, health, and real estate. Today, folks, I've got a real special treat for you. My guest today is a former lawyer, mom of 6, co-founder of Mabel's Labels. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, best-selling author, and sought-after speaker. And Julie is no stranger to the media, having appeared on NBC's The Today Show, HLN's Raising America Breakfast Television, The Marilyn Dennis Show, CP24. I'm out of breath. Many others. Her articles have appeared in the Huffington Post, Today's Parent, the Globe and Mail, Profit Magazine, Working Mother Magazine, and numerous websites. Please welcome to the show, Julie Cole. Welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
It's been great. Well, the last time we saw each other was last month. We had a fireside chat at the National. We were hosting Women in Business, and that was
a great event.
Thank you. Yeah,
that was really fun. You guys did a great job, and I loved my the gals on my panel too.
Yeah, so we had some amazing women on the panel, and we hosted, we had about 40 women there that were either in business or looking to get in business, and you were fantastic, and the feedback we got is we need to do more of these. So thank you for being on the show. That was fantastic. What have you been up to lately?
What have I been up to? Oh,
you're a busy gal.
It's busy. So, I've had actually interesting, work is busy. We got through our back to school season. Of course, Mabel's Labels is a bit, manic at that time because everybody's got to get the labels. They're all going back to school.
Yes.
And personally, it's been busy too because I had to go to Utica, New York to watch my daughter who was playing in the world's lacrosse. She plays on a national lacrosse team. So that was very exciting. And then, because I have so many humans, Thanksgiving, everybody was home. So it was, I have 4 kids at university, so dealing with some reading week stuff now and a lot of expense. Heck, if you have 6 kids, you want to talk to this guy about wealth management, I'll tell you.
A lot of planning, a lot of college planning. So you are a former lawyer, and you just left the legal world to go into business. That is a massive jump, and it's a leap that most people either are afraid to take or they're just quite unsure. It's very risky going from secured position to I don't know what the hell is going to happen.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Talk about that transition. First of all, what made you get started in creating Mabel's Labels, and explain to the people, my listeners who don't know what Mabel's Labels is. If you are a parent, you know what Mabel's Labels is.
Yeah.
I know what Mabel's Labels is because since my son, I have a 13-year-old, but even today we put his name on his computer and we put his name on everything at school. So explain to my listeners what Mabel's Labels is and how you got started, because you have a really great story. Like a lot of other very well-known entrepreneurs who started in their basement or garage, you did the same thing.
Did the same thing, John. And yeah, you're absolutely right. To make that leap was, that's tricky for a couple of reasons. Entrepreneurs do have to have a fairly good appetite for risk. And also to go from the thing that was the killer for me was that, when I did law, I studied really hard. It was hard to get through law school, right? And I was actually having babies during that time. So I had a lot on, and to do all of that and then kind of to not do the career that I was expecting to do, that was a big decision, and that was a little bit tough to swallow. But I do want to tell people that, if you do that pivot, don't think of what you've done in the past as a waste of time, because at first I was like, wow, I'm a very overqualified diaper changer, right? I did a master's degree as well. So I'm very, educated. And then I turned into a label maker and a mom. But yes, I do want to remind you that all the skills, everything that you've done is never a waste. You bring that with you. I mean, having done law, I, can write a cease and desist letter. I can look at a shareholders agreement. I can read a contract. I can write a contract. I can negotiate with my 6 kids. That's where most of my lawyering has come in handy.
Most of negotiating.
Honest to God, negotiating with pint-sized dictators. So there is that. So don't worry so much about not using the skills that you think, that you're not using, because you are. You are using them. You will bring them with you, and your brain and all the skills you acquired are going to be helpful. So I want to say that. Now, why Mabel's Labels? So first of all, yes, for all the parents out there, you know what Mabel's Labels is. If you're not a parent, it's quite simple. We started 21 years ago with a simple dishwasher microwave safe label. Personalized. So a parent would go onto mabelslabels.com, tap in their kid's name, pick a little picture icon, and then they would get their labels and they would put them on all their things that were going to daycare, to school, to camp. And of course, over the years, we've introduced more and more. We've got, so many products now, and combo packs, shoe labels, clothing labels, bag tags, allergy alerts, you name it. But it started with one simple label. And why did it start? There are 2 reasons, and I think all entrepreneurs really have to understand their why. Why are they doing this? Because it's a big commitment, right? And so for us, I started with 3 other women. One's my sister, and 2 were friends from university, actually. And we had an idea. There was a product missing from the market. We were using masking tape and permanent marker on our kids' belongings when they went to playgroup or daycare, and it was falling off and it wasn't working. So, when people are like, how do you come up with a good idea? I'm like, go through your day, find something that pisses you off and fix it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we did. So that was the first thing, was that, we wanted to bring something to market that wasn't there. Now, the second reason has more to do with what was going on in my life. And that was that my eldest child then had just turned 3 and he was diagnosed with autism. And I thought at that point, the traditional workforce probably wouldn't suit my lifestyle or my family needs. I wanted to be able to advocate for him, set up programming for him, get him to the therapies that he needed to go to. And again, he had just turned 3 and he already had 2 younger siblings. It was a gong show around my house anyway, right? So when Mac got his diagnosis, that's when I said to my gals, I'm like, hey, we've had this really good business idea. What if we give it a go? What do you think? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So then we, did all of our R&D. And, at first we thought, we'll be able to make a label that goes through the dishwasher and the microwave, but it's a lot harder than it sounds. So we had to do a lot of testing, and then we launched our product, and that's been 21 years ago. So that's really why we came about, needing to make a shift. Me wanting some more flexibility in my professional life, and bringing a product to market.
Well, it's nice because you actually utilized the blue ocean strategy. You found a product that was in demand, yep, and hard to find.
Right. And, it's interesting, too, because sometimes when you bring a product to market, you also have to educate the market that they need it. But for us, mostly parents, our labels would be out there in the wild, and parents would see them and be like, what is that? Right? They're doing the daycare drop off or sitting at the side of the soccer field, and parents talk about products we love like it's our full-time job. And, they see little Johnny's sippy cup with a name label on it and be like, what is this magic thing? And then the parents would talk. It was, word of mouth, word of mom. I'm telling you, that has been our bread and butter, the fact that people talk about our product. And this was, pre-social media days, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, having to educate the market is usually an obstacle and a stumbling block for people who are introducing a new product. But for us, it made so much sense. And I think that really contributed to our early success and early growth.
Hey everyone, it's John. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask that you please subscribe to the show by just clicking the subscribe button right here. I'd really appreciate it. It helps grow the show so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. If you're already subscribed, a huge thank you. When you subscribe, you're going to get access to the program before anybody else does. So if you would, just click subscribe right here. Thanks so much, and welcome back to the Wealth Eazy Show. At what point did you realize that you needed to move out of a basement and into, say, a commercial or
Right.
industrial unit? That you at what point did you grow that you say, this is we need to scale and we need to get out of here?
Yeah, you know what? Knowing when to do things is such a skill, and knowing when to stop doing things is a skill as well. Knowing when it's like time for me to stop making the labels myself and hiring people to make the labels so that I can be doing things like talking and out there and doing PR. Like, entrepreneurs really have to get the timing right. I think knowing when to let go and knowing when to hold on. So for us, moving out of the basement was a bit of a no-brainer. Look, it was a very dingy basement in Hamilton, Ontario. And we hired a few people and we were like, wow, I don't think it's really like, this probably is not legal to have people in this basement. But we were nervous, right? Like, we're just starting out. We want to make money. Everything we're making, we're putting back into the business. We were nervous about getting, a big production facility because we wanted more evidence that we were going to really succeed. And it was early. So at that point, we told my sister to buy a bigger house with a bigger basement, and she did. So Cynthia moved that into our next basement, and we thought we would be there 5 years, actually, and we were only there 2, and we outgrew that basement. And then we also had a few cycles under our belt, and we were like, okay, we're going to do all right. We got this. It's time for us to make some big, bold moves. And we decided then to get a commercial space in our production facility. And that was probably around 2007. And it's had lots of different iterations, but we are actually in the same building in Hamilton, Ontario. And it's about 20,000 square feet, and it homes our production facility. We make all our labels there. Although I have to say, we also have a smaller production facility in California to do a lot of our American or West Coast orders. So, that's homes our, like I say, our production facility, our marketing team, our customer service, our IT, everybody lives there. And it's really a fun spot. Mabel HQ. Have to come check it out.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
20 years ago, there was no social media like there is today. You couldn't just jump on an IG Live or a Facebook Live or a TikTok Live and promote. How did you guys promote your product? Because you're global, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the beauty of a web-based business, right? Is that we sell everywhere. And the other beauty about
it's directing people to that website.
Yeah.
How did you get the name up?
So again, the word of mouth was definitely a good thing. Our first marketing endeavor was like writing letters to everyone we knew and saying, this is our website. Go and look at it and buy our labels. And you got to remember too, at that time, e-commerce, like we were kind of like, people were still like, I don't know if I want to put the Visa card into the computer machine, right? E-commerce was still a little bit risky. But yes, the word of mouth, and we were very good at getting PR. And I think particularly in those days, obviously the landscape of media has changed enormously since then. But, we got a shout out in Canadian Living. We got a shout out in Today's Parent, people. And then for us, really, once social media started, we were very early adopters because we're like, whoa, this is bringing word of mouth online. Social media is a vehicle for people to be talking about us. So, we jumped right on there, and we know the moms. The moms were like on their Facebook. They were doing their mom blogs. So we were reaching out to mom bloggers, sending them labels, saying, would you like to do a giveaway with your readers? Because we also know that moms buy from people they trust and brands they love and they feel loyal to. So, I started blogging in those really early days, and not blogging about labels, blogging about, having a kid with autism, about trying to get through the day without smelling like baby vomit, all the stuff our customers were doing as well. Because again, moms are loyal. They want visibility. Visibility creates credibility, and then they'll buy from you. So not only is it fun being on social media and building a community and providing great content, it's also good for the bottom line.
Yeah. And, the one thing that a lot of my listeners are business owners.
Yeah.
Or they are people that's maybe thinking about going into business. And I think the biggest thing that's holding back a lot of people is how do I prepare financially? Because I've got this secure income. I'm going to go into where either I have no clients or I have some clients, I have to recruit them. What strategies, what financial strategies did you implement moving from having a secure check to, I don't know where my next dollar is going to come from? How did you prepare for that?
That's scary stuff for sure. That's scary stuff. And you got to remember too, at that time, I was like, we put everything into getting treatment for my son and therapy for my son. We were not getting funding. I mean, you can, when you have a child with autism, you get on the wait list for funding, and we sat on a wait list, but you know, I was not going to let him run on the wait list. So I was spending $40,000 a year on therapy for him at the age of 3 years old. And, you know, it meant doing without things like holidays or fancy cars and that sort of thing. But I will say, and I do want to acknowledge my privilege here, because Daddy-O, you know, had a good job, and he was able to bring in a good salary, which meant I was in a position to do without a salary.
You had some help.
Absolutely. You know, so I mean, you know, people are always like, wow, you're so brave. You're so amazing. I'm like, yeah, I know, like single moms with 3 kids who run 2 jobs and start businesses. To me, they're the real superheroes. So yes, you know what? I think I'm cool. I think I did something really interesting. I think I'm brave and all that. But I do also like to acknowledge a bit of privilege in saying that, because there's a lot of people, you know, who really can't take those chances. So I was able to. And also, here's another thing too, right? Like having 3 partners, you're also sharing the risk. So having that partnership meant, you know, we were all putting money in. We were all gathering our different brains and our different skill sets. And I think that also contributed to that early growth. And for us, I mean, the cost of launching wasn't that bad. You know, we just needed some equipment. We needed my sister's basement. We could do the work ourselves. So we did bootstrap. And we were able to do that. And because we started making money, I remember the time we were like, we need to get a better like label printer thing. And we're like, oh gosh, but it's going to cost this much for us to lease it. What if we can't do it? And we all had to be like, okay, do we all have like, if we don't make enough, do we all have like $500 this month that we can pitch in for? And we were like, okay, let's do it. We all, you know, everybody talked to their partners, and we were all young, right? And everybody's careers were starting out. Even our partners' careers were starting, and we were all having babies. So this was not like, nobody was like, you know, this was not Real Housewives of Hollywood, I can tell you. This was, we were working, we were slogging at it, right? So, we're like, okay, we can all pitch in and do that. But we never had to, because we did make enough to be able to pay the lease on the equipment. And we did do that. So, you know, for us, bootstrapping made the most sense. A lot of women entrepreneurs particularly go for like the love money. If they're going to get loans, they go to like, you know, partners or their parents or, you know, friends, and they go for the love money. But there are like better opportunities now. You can get angel investment. There are grants. There are, you know, places like acceleration centers, innovation factories, and Mars, and places where you can go and get some and learn about how to get investment and that sort of thing. And that's another thing, like you got to remember 21 years ago, you know, we couldn't hop on like a live, we couldn't listen to a podcast telling us how to do these things. It was pretty lonely slog. And I do think entrepreneurship is and can be very lonely. So I would suggest, particularly if you're a solo entrepreneur, that you're doing things like listening to you, coming to your events, going to things like that, because it can be very lonely. And then you get in your head and the brain gremlins tell you you can't do it. And who did you think you were? So, you know, make sure you're surrounding yourself with support, not just financially, but emotionally and mentally too, because entrepreneurs have a higher risk of certain mental health issues because, you know, they tend to be perfectionists, or they put too much pressure on themselves, or they're people pleasers or whatever. So you want to make sure you're keeping all of that in check too.
I think you bring up a really interesting and great point, because they need a different support group. Because what I have found is the people that are going to put you down the most is the people closest to you, like your family and your friends.
Right.
You have an idea and say, hey, I think I could do this, or I could do that, or I can transition. The first people are going to say, are you crazy? You can't do that.
100%.
You don't have the skills, or you're going to fail and you're going to do that. And you've already eliminated 50% of the people that are thinking about doing something. Then you have the other 50% that are going to go to do something and may not even tell their family because they're afraid if I fail, now they're going to get, see, I told you so. So you bring up a very valid point is there are so many networking events and there's many clubs and things that you could join as a either solopreneur, entrepreneur, associate, get yourself involved in a group or a network. You find every city has these networking events. And these business, I can't remember what they're called.
Even like Chamber of Commerce or like,
Chamber
all
of
of
Commerce.
these.
Yes, when you can actually talk with other people and listen to other maybe things that they're going through in their business. And maybe you say, hey, I'm going through the exact same thing, and you might hear how to solve a problem, or maybe you can help someone solve a problem. So it's very important to get involved in a Chamber of Commerce, get involved in different networking events that involve entrepreneurs, and be around people that are maybe where you want to be and
100%.
learn from them.
100%. Your network's your net worth. And I think, you're speaking to mentoring, whether that's peer mentoring, having a mentor, being a mentor, all that stuff is so, so important because, John, you make a great point. Like when you first launch, like fortunately, again, for me, having the 3 partners, it was like, okay, well, at least we're all crazy together, right? Like what's a little crazy between friends, right? But even still, I mean, are you kidding? My grandfather, who was like an Irish immigrant and moved to Hamilton in 1950 and worked 2 jobs to support and built his house. And he's like, my sister's a teacher, I'm a lawyer. And he's like, you're going to leave what? All he wanted was financial stability.
Yeah.
All he wanted was to see us financially stable, this old guy, right? And so he was like, this was very stressful for Grandpa Lyons, right? But I have to say, as he saw what we were doing and he would come to, like when we moved to the new factory and he would come, this man was super proud. And he was very happy the day we sat him down and told him we were now paying ourselves more than our previous salaries in our professional careers. And he was like, oh my girls. And like it is interesting when you get support. So at first they think you're a little bit crazy, but once they see you're doing okay, like my Grandma Lyons, when we won the Women Entrepreneur of Canada Award, I mean, my Grandma Lyons, who died at 101, was in that limo coming to, the awards ceremony in Toronto. And like, everybody loves you when you're a winner, but we had lots of people support us too, all through the way. Like my mom was, everybody's first employee is their mom. My mom was at that, in that basement till 2 a.m. many nights, handwriting envelopes before we could print them or if the printer was down and that sort of thing. But I do also want to mention, while you will have a lot of naysayers, what has changed sort of in the entrepreneurship world is that it's become a little bit sexy lately. A lot of young people are like, oh, I'm going to do, like you can actually do courses in entrepreneurship. It's seen as really kind of romanticized. And I do like to remind people that, it's not all like being a podcast guest and TED Talks and book deals. It's a lot of making labels in a basement till 2 a.m. when you're pregnant with your 4th child.
Oh, yeah.
So, before you go into this and you think it's going to be a certain way, you need to know, like, you're not putting the kids to bed at 8 o'clock and pouring a glass of wine and watching Netflix or, watching Love Island or whatever. I've never watched a reality show in my life, right? Like these are the things because you're going to be in a basement making labels and you might not be able to afford a holiday. You might not be able to get the fancy car, all that thing. So, if you think it's going to be all glam, it's really, really not. And I need you to hear me on that. Listener, listen to me.
Short-term hard work equals long-term laziness.
There you go. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
One thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask for help.
I love that. Absolutely. And I'm going to say, like, that was something that we were just like, we left our egos at the door. We would ask everyone for help, whether it was a kid we needed to babysit our kids, like teenager, whether it was a friend we knew who was in retail, whether it was an accountant friend, whether it was a real estate friend, an investor, whatever. We were just absolutely shameless and are just like, yeah, can we take you for coffee and pick your brain? And, I've always said no's are free. People can say no, thank you.
Yeah. Listen, I've been in this business. I've been a strategic financial coach and advisor for 25 years, and I don't pretend to know it all. And there are some things in this business that I'm still learning, and I'm not afraid to go to someone. There's even someone who's maybe been in the business less than me, but maybe they're further ahead than where I am. And I'm like, hey, What are you doing differently? Can I buy you lunch?
Yes.
I want to know what you're doing. And you know what? I find when you reach out and you ask for help, people who are doing well, they want to help you.
They do.
Because they're like, hey, I feel thrilled.
Yeah.
And I'm honored that you're asking me for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go for lunch. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people, they're afraid to ask for the help because number one, it shows weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they may feel that someone, a competitor or someone in the business, they're going to steer them the wrong way. I have financial advisors on my show. I don't look at them as competitors. I look at them as collaborators. We
Love that.
collaborate together. Yep. There's so much money out there and there's so many people to help. You're not my competition.
That's right.
But if we can collaborate together, that we can actually help people create wealth in this world, let's do it. Get on the show.
There's enough to go around. And you know what? That's where I think, like, John, what you do, who you are, the value you give is different to what somebody else does. And I think this is really where, for entrepreneurs, you need to be thinking about your personal brand, because nobody can be you. Nobody can give what you give. And, this is the thing that people need to remember. Like, we were the four moms in the basement making labels. Yes, of course, we were ripped off. Of course, other label companies started. But we've remained the original. We remained true to our story, to our brand, and we've remained the most innovative. So go try, be us. You're not going to be.
Did you have people when you were starting up, did you have people around you saying, you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to fail. What a stupid idea. And then when you became successful, I knew you could do it, Julie. I knew I had so much faith in you. And now that you've gotten to some money, they want to be around you more. Has that happened?
It's, it can kind of go both ways. Like sometimes people, you can see that, there are people who, I don't pay much attention to it, but you can see on your socials, I've got friends who will like when, I'll post today. So I actually have a kid turning 18 today and I'll post about that and they'll like it. But if I post about maybe a professional success, they will never like those. So you do get, but you can't, like Babe Ruth said, the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats, right?
100%.
So we don't worry about those people, you just got to remember, that's a them problem. That's a them thing. So you just keep doing your do, keep your eye on the ball, do what you do best, and don't worry about that sort of stuff. It's going to happen. You're going to see it.
You're so right. You're
right?
So right. I do tons of social media.
Yeah.
I'll do a clip in my rolls. And I'll do a clip on vacation. I'll do something. And I've always got people, where'd you rent your rolls? Where did you rent this? Or where did you do that? It's like, you know what? I always find it's the people that are below you that are going to make fun and stupid comments because the successful, wealthy people are not going to make negative comments. They're going to be there to support you.
That's right. You really do get to know who is like cheering you on.
Of course.
And you know what? And that's our job. Like I cheer on women all the time. I am holding them up. I am giving back. That's because why not? Why not share what I've learned?
Yeah.
That brings me a lot of joy. And if I can make life a little bit easier for another mom who's starting a business, then I'm going to do it because they're not competition. They're collaborators. And so many times when I've done that, I think about, some really successful people and, I would go on their podcast when they were really small or I went and helped them with something and then they blew up and they have never forgotten. And they are there's a couple of them that are huge now. And they were like, dude, you turned up for me at the beginning and you were there for me. And I'm like, 100%. And the ones who didn't go very far, I'm still there for you, But I just think it's, why would you want to live any other way?
I don't know if you know who Grant Cardone is? So, I know the whole story behind Grant Cardone and people, he's very flashy. He's got his 2 helicopters, his jet and his cars and his homes. But some people don't know where he came from. Like the guy was a drug addict. He was in rehab. He nearly died.
Right.
He got the shit kicked out of him so bad
Yeah.
by a drug dealer, he nearly died. His mother didn't recognize him. And now he's a multi-billionaire. So people go, oh, you're just showing off.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also selling courses and he's teaching you how to do what
Right.
he's done. So people who aspire to be where you are, you need to show what you've learned and what you've created over the time. I don't know if you know who Wes Watson is. Wes Watson is another Instagram influencer. Here's a guy who spent 10 years in prison for dealing drugs. He's out of prison. He's built a very successful business. He doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't smoke weed. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he shows his Bugatti. He shows his cars. This guy's got a massive car collection. Why? He's selling courses on, hey, if I can come out of spending 10 years in prison as a convict and I've built all this, I could teach you how to do the same thing.
Right.
So
That's his brand.
I think negative minds are going to look at people like that and say, you're showing off. And positive minds are saying, hey, if you can do this,
I can do it too.
I can do this
Yeah.
too. It makes it worth saying, it is possible.
Yes. And I agree. Like, I think that's absolutely fine if that's your brand, right? Like, if his brand is like, look, this is where I've come from, this is what I built, and I can help you too, then yes, you're going to want to do that, right? For me, that's not my brand. I am a relatable mom. I am not, I even will be like, I don't think I'm going to post about this vacation because you know what? I know a lot of moms right now who can't go on vacation, and it's just not like, I don't need to.
Yep.
So it all depends on what your brand is. And I do think that always deserves a lot of contemplation. I think you're always either contributing to your brand or you're taking away from it. You're never like just neutral. So what is it you're doing with every interview, with every appearance, with every social media post? What are you doing that's building the brand, how you want to be seen, how you want to live your life, and what your core values are, and all of that.
Yeah. In our fireside chat, you talked about a do not do list. A lot of people have a to-do list. You have a to do not do list.
Yeah.
Can you talk to my listeners about what that list is and how it's affected and how you've worked it in your business?
Yeah, look, I think it's particularly hard for women to say no to things. And, we do have traditionally these long to-do lists. I do challenge people to have a do not do list, because what are you doing that you should not be doing? And I think we really need to value our time. I place a lot of value in my time, and in doing so, other people do. My coworkers, my children, everybody. And I think, what is it that you're doing? Is it time to get that virtual assistant? Is it time to stop making the labels? Like, if I was still making labels in a basement, this would be a big problem. If I knew how to make a label, this is a big problem, right? Like, you need to know when to let go of things and when to move on and give those jobs to other people. So, I do think it's important to be like, what in your home are you doing that you can be delegating out? What in your business are you doing that you can delegate out? And then do it. I think it's very hard for entrepreneurs often because, control freaks, and it's my baby. And I know for us at Mabel's, when we did our first hires, they were the worker bees making labels, and that was fine. Once we hired the managers, it was a little harder because then we had to let go of the reins a bit, and we had to let the managers make decisions. And then, we found if we micromanaged them, that didn't go over too well, and we would lose managers. So it wasn't good for retention. So we had to let them go. And in fact, we hired them because they had skills that we didn't have, and experiences we didn't have. So it's time to let go and let them do those things so that you can, if you're working so hard in the business, you're not working on the business. So if you can get people doing the things on your do not do list, then you can really focus on what you need to get done for that growth, for that wealth.
Well, look, Elon Musk says, I hire people smarter than me
100%.
to do things. I know what I'm good at, and he focuses his time on doing what he is good at.
Yep.
He hires the smarter people around him to handle the bigger projects that he doesn't understand.
Absolutely.
Which frees up his time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, I get when you're starting out, you're trying to save money in that, right? But, I think a lot of my friends who are sole entrepreneurs, it's tax time. They're like, okay, I got to do my taxes. So they spend a week doing their taxes. their taxes aren't that complicated, but they're not accountants. So how about this? How about you spend the money to get an accountant to spend a couple of hours to do it so that you can do things like build your business? Yes, sometimes you have to spend money to make money, but if you're spending your week doing taxes, I would say entrepreneurs, remember, contractors are your best friend. Like you can hire somebody, an HR consultant who can do a couple of hires for you, write some policies for you. You don't have to hire a full-time HR person. You can contract a bookkeeper to do your books, so you're not doing that and you're doing the things that are important. So really, I think delegation is a skill that is not always an entrepreneur's highlight, and it needs to be. It needs to be something that needs constant work. And that's why I always think, having a mentor is good because they can help you with that, coach you through that.
Listen, I got into social media really heavily probably about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I found I was spending a ton of time constantly posting. And I would spend, several hours in the morning just, okay, what am I going to post today? And then I started creating my newsletter. It just got overwhelming.
Yes.
And you know what? I was at a dinner. I was at the National Club. And I met Amanda, who's my brand manager.
Yes.
She is fantastic. It's just things happen at the right times. We started talking and I said, what do you do? She says, oh, I'm marketing and I'm help manage social media. I said, oh my God, it's like the universe placed you here,
right in front of me.
We need to talk.
Good on you.
We scheduled lunch.
Yep.
I think it was the next day or that week.
Yep.
I said, tell me how you can help me free up my time. She laid everything out, and I'm telling you, it's like you're hired.
Done.
And she's been my brand manager now for a year, and she has freed up so much of my time
to do what you need to do.
To do what I do best.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, go in your zone of genius. Go in your zone of genius, do your thing, and let other people, let Amanda go in her zone of genius, right?
That's her specialty.
And you know what? People don't realize, people who are not involved in social media, content creation is a big job. It is a full time. I mean, at Mabel's, we have a full-time social media coordinator. We have a full-time person who works with our influencers and brand partnerships. And we have somebody who manages them. This is important stuff that you need to budget for. And if it's not your zone of genius, get somebody in who is great in that space. Get your Amanda.
It's becoming the way of the world now.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to social media and they're getting a lot of their information on social media. I have gotten so much business from people watching my TikToks or my Instagram, and they've reached out to me saying, hey, I saw this video of yours or I saw this reel, and you can book a call with me. And they're saying, hey, listen, I heard about that or I heard about this. Can you please tell me how to do this? Or I want to set up a time with you. You seem to know what you're talking about. Right. So I think if you're any type of business, you need to get on the social media.
You do.
And because this is the way the world is going to.
And a lot of entrepreneurs are like, but I don't like it there. And I get
it's business.
It's business. I get that it can be intimidating. So toe dip, start with and know where your customers are. Are your customers all LinkedIn people? Then hang out on LinkedIn more. Are they Instagram people? So for me, my customers back in my day, all the moms were on Facebook. But they're all on Instagram now, right? All the moms who are on Facebook are my age. We don't have children anymore. We're buying for our parents who are going into nursing homes. We're buying Mabel's labels for that. So where do we go to our millennial moms? They're on Instagram and TikTok. So we have to be there. So go where your audience is. And yes, if it's intimidating, if it's not your thing, this is something you hire somebody for. But I will say, if you're going to hire somebody, you better make sure they understand your brand. Yes. They better understand your messages. And you want to make sure that you're, giving it a once over for the first while. It's like take the training wheels off. Make sure that they are understanding your voice, your brand, and what you want put out there. Because if they, you can do so much brand building and it can disappear like that.
Guys, did you hear what she said? I want you to listen to this again. She said, know who your customer is. If you don't know who your customer is, you could be promoting your social media to the complete wrong clientele and wasting your money. If you're in the construction business, focus, if you're doing hashtags, hashtag construction, hashtag if you're in the home building, bricklaying, carpentry, hashtag, know where your customers and how to find them. That's really key what you just said.
Yeah.
It's very important. You gotta know
it's
your
really
customer.
key. And I think, to your point, you need to bake your social media plan as a part of your marketing plan. And you need to be doing things like too, like you need to know like SEO. You need to see what your competitors are doing, what words they're using. You guys, like we have a full-time person who does like Google ads and SEO, like full-time. Like this is important stuff. And it's also interesting, I think business owners and entrepreneurs, you know, you got to put yourself out there. You've got to be visible. And there has been a shift. Like people ask me all the time, well, how did you get on the Today Show? How do I get on breakfast television? And you know what? Like a lot of, like, there's been a real shift in media, right? People are digesting their media differently. A lot now of like morning shows and things like that is more pay to play, right? So, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, do things like pitch people who have podcasts to go on their podcasts.
Yeah.
People are listening. They're doing their walks, they're doing their drives, they're whatever, and they are listening to podcasts. Go on social media, do an Instagram live, do a collaboration. You know, like for me, you know, we have a baby event that we do every January. So we partner with other companies that have products that are similar but not competing. So hey, why don't we do a big giveaway of Mabel's labels, a pack of your diapers, you know, some of your baby clothes, your whatever, and like collaborate with people who again have the same audience but are non-competing, because then you get in front of their customers who are your customers.
Yeah. At the Fireside Chat, you talked about knowing your why. Mm-hmm. How has your why evolved over time through business and through the years?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that helps us keep focused and helps us keep true to who we are, how we like to do business, and what our core values are. And core values have always played a big role in Mabel's Labels. You know, we don't just have them slapped up on a you know, poster in our boardroom, right? Like, you know, when we think about our core values, we think about who we hire. Like, are we hiring and firing by them? Are we integrating them into our interview questions? Like, are they that important? And once you know what your core values are and they are so integrated, they actually help you make decisions. And if you stay true to that, then you'll be staying true to your why.
Mm-hmm. I talked about at the Fireside Chat, you know, you talked about your why. And I used to always say, I know my why. And then I listened to an audiobook by Deion Sanders. Okay, Coach Prime. And he kind of spun it a little differently.
Okay.
And it resonated with me.
Oh, yeah.
It's know your rabbit. If you've ever been to a dog track, okay, especially in the South, I used to have a place in Sarasota and spent my winters there. And I used to go to the dog track sometimes. And just, you know, instead of going to watch the horses run, you watch the dogs run.
Right.
And what are the dogs chasing? They need to chase something. So
The rabbit.
The rabbit.
Yeah.
So the rabbit's on an arm and it's on a chain and it races around the track. And the object, this has to go faster than these dogs are running, because once they open the gates, these greyhounds or these dogs, they're chasing this rabbit around the track. The dogs never catch the rabbit. They're always chasing the rabbit. So what is your rabbit? What are you chasing?
You know what? I love that. And I've actually got a really funny story to go along with that. So my daughter Posey, she's the one who plays national level lacrosse. When she was a little girl, she did cross country at school, like all kids do, right? But she always won. So like we'd go to the regional, whatever, and she'd always come first. So, you know, I always joked that chasing her around with that wooden spoon really paid off. But one time the coach brought them, all the kids together from the school. They were going to compete against all these other schools. And the coach said, Posey, you know, you always do very well at this and you always kind of come first. Can you please tell everybody what your trick is? And Posey said, I stay with the bike. And the bike was the bunny that was showing them where to run.
Okay.
And so she just stayed with the bunny, with the rabbit, which was showing them where they had to run. So that was her, like, and I think it's so funny because that was her advice. Like, not everybody can stay with the rabbit because they're not that fast, but her advice was stick with the bike.
There you go. That's a great story. And it resonates very well with chasing the rabbit.
That's right.
So if you don't know your why, what's your rabbit? What is it that you're chasing?
Yeah. And I think the stick with the bike, chase your rabbit is also like, stay at the front of the pack.
Yes.
To the Elon Musk thing, or like, you know, if you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room, right? Like always be not afraid to ask questions, stay at the front of the pack and follow the people who you want to emulate. Like follow, if you have customers that are like mine or you like what I do, see who I'm following and follow them.
Yeah.
Do what I do, imitate it. Like, you know, you're not going to be me. Nobody's going to, but you can be like, oh, I like how she did that reel. I'm going to try and do a reel like that or whatever. It's okay. Stick with the bike.
And you know what I do? I follow a lot of people in my business. Like I'll follow Dave Ramsey,
Yep.
Ramit Sethi, and I'll follow them and I will make comments. Either I agree with them or I disagree with them. And most of the time when it comes to Dave Ramsey, I'm disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
And it gets other people engaged with me. And now they're viewing my profile and going, well, who is this guy that's able to speak with such knowledge on financial advice? Who is this guy? And I'm constantly interacting with other people, either disagreeing with me or they are agreeing with me. So, you know, it's okay to follow people and interact with people that are in your space.
I love that.
And interact, make comments, leave comments.
You know what? I love this. And I'm going to give you a suggestion because this is something I'm going to start doing. I want to do an Instagram series where, because I do this too. And I do things like, you know, I follow, you know, somebody who's got a big parenting account. And she was like, what's your opinion? And, you know, I'm a pretty weathered mom. I've had a lot of experience and I gave my opinion and it got thousands of likes.
Yeah.
So what I thought I would do was maybe like every Friday be like, okay, so I left a comment on at so-and-so's thing. This is what she put out there and this is what I said. How do you feel? So you're giving a shout out to the person who posted the question. So they might collaborate or they might share it. And you're also sharing some good content and you're in this space.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really great way too, to even, you know, what you're doing, but then to elevate it even more, to create more content with that good advice that you have.
I think that's a great idea. There's also times where now Instagram and TikTok allow you to do like a stitch where I could repost their video.
Yeah.
And I can cut it sort of halfway and I can add my my take on it and say, I disagree with this wholeheartedly. Here's why. Or
Love
guys, I agree with this. Here's why I agree with this, and go even a step further. So again, I
sharing
love your
perspective, creating content.
Yes.
And then giving a shout out. And, you know, I thought about this earlier when you were saying, you know, ask for help. And when you do, or, you know, even people who are in your space and, you know, you think, oh, they're competition, whatever. But then if you give them a shout out as well, when you're like, you know what, I learned this from John today when I was on his podcast. You're going to love that.
Yeah.
And then you're going to talk about me and you're going to elevate me and you're going to be, so make sure that you're giving people cred who deserve it.
You know what? If you don't know how to create your own either short reels or your own content, use someone else's. If you're in the construction business and someone is showing you how to, I don't know, do shoring or, you know, dig for a foundation, and you say, you know, you could show their reel and then do your own stitch and say, he's doing it all wrong. Here's why. Or this is dangerous because, or guys, this is the proper way of doing things. And then throw your own little 2 cents into. Now you're drawing attention because when you repost and you tag that person, you're also getting their clients' eyes.
Exactly. I love that.
Collaborate.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is to your point earlier, John, when you said, you know, you have to be on social media, you have to be in this space. And, you know, when social media first came out and people are like, well, you guys are really there. And, you know, you've got 200,000 Facebook followers and whatever. And, you know, I always said the thing is, whatever industry you are in, whatever your profession is, whatever you do, people are talking about it online. Yeah. Do you want to be a part of the conversation or do you not? Because it's happening with or without you.
Yeah, absolutely. You sold Mabel's Labels. Mm-hmm. 2-part question. When you started the business, did you go into it with the mindset of building it to sell it? And then once you did get an offer on it, I'm not going to say because it could be confidentiality who bought you, but when you did get that offer, how did you prepare for your exit?
Okay, so couple of things. So when we built it, did we build to sell? Look, I think we were so obsessed and preoccupied with just building, we didn't think that far ahead. We weren't thinking about selling. We weren't thinking about legacy. But my advice would be, you know, I think you do need to think about your exit early on because you're going to manage your business differently depending on what you expect your exit to be. Like if I'm going to leave it to my kids, it's going to look different too if I'm going to sell it to a big company, right? So when we did exit, it was kind of out of the blue. It wasn't confidential. We were bought by Avery, who is owned by CCL, which is a labeling giant. It makes so much sense. It's obviously public because they're a publicly listed company. So they called us, Avery called us out of the blue and said, we've been keeping an eye on you folks. Can we have lunch? Can we have a meeting? And we're like, sure. So that was July. And it was, we were 14 years into at that point, and we knew we needed to do something. We didn't know if maybe we need to hire an outside CEO. Maybe we should get some investment. Maybe we should start a factory in the US. Anyway, we had all this stuff we were thinking about. And then we got the call. And then we were like, well, let's have a conversation. So we had conversations and the conversations went well. And we did, that was July. So it was record time. We closed the deal end of December. That is unheard of. That is super fast for anybody out there. Just, you're not going to be talking about how you're selling your business because you can get left at the altar till that money's in the bank. But I will say for us, it happened for a couple of reasons. We loved that they were holding on to the Mabel's Labels brand. We were staying in our Hamilton office. Our staff was remaining the same. Culturally, it was going to be very similar. Obviously you're a big company, but there were some advantages that came with that too, because we had access to really smart HR people, and we had access to really people who could help us design a factory. So there were a lot of really great benefits as well. So we liked the company. We liked the price. We needed to sell it at the right price. There were four of us. It's super important. You can't give all
the price.
You can't give it away. We're not a charity, right? We worked hard, a lot of sweat equity, a lot of equity, and and there's four of us, so we're only getting a quarter of the piece of the pie. So we got to make sure that's going to be all right.
And they kept you on, and they also kept you on to run it.
Yeah. So two of us stayed on. One stayed on as the general manager for a couple of years, and I stayed on, and I'm still there.
Yeah.
And I think, to prepare your business for a sale, I'm going to say a couple things real quick. I think personally, you want to make sure that you have a very good accountant and a wealth person, who can help you advise you what's going to happen when you come into some money. You want to make sure you set up trust funds for the kids. You want to set up a holding company. You want to do those things. So that's what you want to do personally. Professionally, it's going to be a lot easier if you keep your house in order. Make sure that you have all your contracts. Make sure that, your accounting is done right. And it's because what happens is once the offer comes through, you go into due diligence. And if they discover stuff in due diligence, that's when they say, you know what, we're offering you now $3 million less because we've discovered A, B, and C. So our house was in order, and they came in, did their due diligence, and it all went well. So we closed the deal without a hitch. I would also advise make sure that we had a very awesome lawyer who brokered the deal for us, and not only is it important because you want to make sure you're not leaving it on the table. Again, get the professionals get somebody in their zone of genius, who does acquisitions, right? So we did that, but also you can have some awkward conversations and negotiations. And for me, I work for the people I was in negotiations with. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to go into a relationship like that with hard feelings or feeling like they tried to screw you or anything like that. So having somebody else do that tough negotiating is better for that relationship when you do end up working for the person you were negotiating with.
And I think you make a really good point is, number one, you need a good accountant, a good lawyer.
Yeah.
And you need a really good financial advisor.
100%. Oh my goodness.
Because you're going to come into money, and maybe the kind of money that you're not used to.
That's right.
And chances are you're going to be broken in less than 5 years.
You see it with people who win the lottery. You see it with,
they're broken 2.5 years.
100%. So, you need a wealth advisor. You absolutely do. You've worked too hard not to make your money work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and so many. How many broke athletes do we see?
Honestly, the thing is too,
millions, and they're
exactly.
broke.
And if you have somebody smart helping you with this and working with this, then your money will make you money.
Yes.
You can. There's a lot of people who don't have to work because their money's doing all their work for them.
Well, get someone who understands how to create more babies out of that dollar.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I like dollar babies.
We're about running out of time, but one more question. If you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give her?
You know, it's kind of interesting. I'd be like, Jules, you're fine. Like, you're fine. I think I always was like, you know, I was that kid who, you know, I always did the things. I always participated. I always helped people. I was, you know, I was always like, you know, I was the Dawn in residence. I was the valedictorian in high school. I was nice to people. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. Be yourself. And, you know, don't sweat the small stuff. I don't sweat the small stuff, obviously. I mean, if you do, you can't start a business and have 6 kids. Like, I keep it all in perspective. So for my younger self, I would just be like, you know, you're doing fine. Just keep going. Be you. Good. And don't be anyone else. You don't have to be. You're good.
You're very active on social media. You've got a live IG going later on with Kathleen. Is it Kathleen?
Catherine Schwarzenegger.
Catherine Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, so
that's Arnold's daughter?
Arnold's daughter, Chris Pratt's wife. And, you know, she is a Shriver, too, for those of us who like Kennedys. So, yeah, she's amazing. She's an author. She's in the mom space, creating a lot of amazing content. And I do Instagram lives with really incredible mom influencers who provide really great content. Like I spoke with, you know, Feeding Littles. They have like 3.5 million followers. And, you know, feeding kids is such a thing parents obsess about. So they provide great content. We have a great interview. The baby chick, Catherine Schwarzenegger, like all sorts of amazing people. So you want to find me at Julie Cole Inc. For Instagram. And also I have great folks on LinkedIn Lives as well. A lot of women entrepreneurs. Actually, I was thinking you got to meet Emily O'Brien, who I had on. And she is the founder of Comeback Stacks when she started while she was incarcerated. And she's a self-proclaimed failed drug mule. And she had this awesome idea of creating this popcorn brand while she was incarcerated. And now she has come out and her business is amazing. She's incredible. She owns her history. She hires women who come out of prison and need a break and does a lot of amazing work. So I think, you know, she's somebody you might want to have on, Emily O'Brien.
I would love to. I'd love to get in contact
I'll
with
connect.
her.
I'll connect you too. And, you know, I've had on like Jen Harper, who's the indigenous founder of Cheekbone Beauty, Ashley from Smash and Test. Anyway, all sorts of phenomenal people. So definitely come in and check me out on LinkedIn as well. But to find me specifically in all my things, obviously, I want you to go to mabelslabels.com and buy some freaking labels.
Yes.
But you can also go to mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole and find all my stuff there.
Amazing. Julie, thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom and your knowledge in entrepreneurship and just teaching people, you know, how to get started in some of the ups and downs in business. So thank you so much for being here.
Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Guys, that's all for today. Guys, if you like this episode, please subscribe to the channel, share it and with others. And guys, don't forget my book, Wealth Without Wall Street. It is on Amazon. It's in Barnes & Noble. It is in chapters. She's got it. Guys, you're not going to learn this information in school. This type of information about money is not found in school, but you will find it in my book. That's all for today. Take care of your wealth and your health.
And also, I need to say, this is important to be teaching our kids too.
I got my son reading it. My son's 13, and he's reading the book.
Because you know what? Too many grown-ups don't know. Let's start having these conversations with our kids, right?
100%. Don't be afraid to talk about money at the dinner table.
You got it.
Thanks, Julie.